Yeah, 316. Got game and pulled out his own Atari. I said sorry, I'ma have to pass like Nash to Amari. Tiger up early on a Sunday, sinking birdies while the pigskin spinning through the air, tighten birdie. It's a TD, it's a TKO, a home run, it's a hat trick. Ain't no way to be an all-star without practice. So if you down to sacrifice your life for a draft pick, it's a pretty sweet position you can live in if you have some things in the air. If you got game, wiggle like you just don't care. If you got game, playing like you got no fit, and you got game. If you came here to win, yeah, you got game.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to We Talk Raw. I'm your host today, Jennifer Busco, and my wonderful guest, which is such a fun name to say, Anna Flowers.
Hi, guys.
Hi, welcome. I should have brought you like a vase of flowers. And you have flowers on your shirt. It's just like part
today.
of you. Yeah, in the flow. Your name's in the flow.
Thanks. I'm married.
Welcome. Welcome to We Talk Raw, and we're going to talk raw today.
Okay.
We're going to go deep or not. We're just going to have fun. And you are the owner of Alara International.
I am.
Here in North Carolina.
That's right. Mooresville.
So north of where we are now. And you wear many hats.
A lot, yeah.
And you have a story of how you got where you are today.
Oh my gosh, I do. Yes.
So let's start there.
Okay. So we moved here about a decade ago. We've moved all over the country. I'm kind of a gypsy. So I'm not sure if you're the same. I know you were talking about Syracuse a second ago. But grew up in the Midwest. I was an industrial designer by trade, so I'd always kind of go where the jobs would take me. And it was me and a bunch of guys all the time. And we moved here for Lowe's Corporate, which is kind of wild. And at the same time, I was kind of going through a little bit of an awakening and just trying to kind of figure things out. I know you kind of like to go in blind and not know a whole lot about me either, so I know I'm probably throwing stuff out to you,
We're
too.
getting to know each other live.
We
everyone.
are.
Yes.
So I have had, this is a little wild, 13 heart surgeries. So a little strange. My last ones were last fall.
That is
Doing
wild.
really well. And if I told you the list of things that I've like miraculously healed, you would actually, you probably would believe me. But but it's kind of insane to think about all the things that I've gone through and the stuff that's happened. And whenever years ago, 15 years ago, I had probably 9 heart surgeries at that point. We were living in Alabama. I had a, what I would call like, it's a loop recorder. Have you ever heard anything like that? So they put it in as basically like an implanted like heart monitor. And it just, before Apple Watches and all the fancy things, right? It tracked all of your stuff all the time. And I had a near-death experience that was recorded. And so I knew it happened.
You were conscious when it, or you knew it was happening?
Well, no, yes. I mean, I was working at home. I was consulting. I was designing at the time. And when I would get dizzy or have stuff happen, I have enough of like a warning that I know to like sit down. And so I went and kind of like, sat back down. And when I did, I knew immediately, I was like, oh, I'm going down. And then I really I had this kind of out-of-body experience. And so wow, do you want to hear all about this?
Sure.
So I literally had what I now think are my guides, but at the time I think I've thought of them as more as like angels. I mean, I didn't really realize the difference.
Right.
And so I had these 4 beautiful guides that I was close with come down. One of them was my grandmother I never met. It was my grandpa who had been with me as a
Did you see the
child.
fist? Like, did it look like the person, or was it like a ball
It
of
looked
energy?
like light, but I could also tell. Like
Who it
I knew
was,
this,
yeah.
right? I'd lost a good friend in high school. His name was Brett. I love him dearly. He was there. So I had these 4 very important, very beautiful souls with me. And then they, kind of whisking me away, and I could see my body, that kind of out-of-body
like
experience.
the movies where you're looking
right.
at, are they like CPRing you and all the things?
Well,
or like,
no,
were
that's
you...
just it. I was alone.
Oh, wow.
So just to make sure we're talking to everybody. So no, I was alone at the time, and that was what was so wild about it. Duke, who I go to now for cardiology, made a comment, I don't know, maybe a few months ago, where they were like, you're the longest recorded pause without resuscitation we have on file.
Wow.
And so it was really just over a minute. It was just 72 seconds. Felt like a lot longer.
How did you know that if you were alone?
Because I had that loop recorder.
Oh, so they know
So it recorded
exactly.
everything.
Yeah.
So when I got there and they were, reading everything at the pacemaker lab, because I did not call 911, I called my husband, my poor husband. And it was during the week, thank God. And he brought me straight into the, at that point, I'd already had 9 heart surgeries with him. I was on a first name basis with a lot.
Right,
That's
like
ridiculous, but knew everybody. And, we go in there and she's like, who resuscitated you? I was like, no one. She's like, well, baby, you wouldn't have come back without resuscitation. It was for over a minute. And I was like, no one. She's like, okay, well, I mean, it says that you, and she asked me, do you know what happened? I was like, I think I just died. She goes, you did?
Did you go somewhere?
I did.
Do you feel like you know how they say sometimes you can have a near-death experience where you don't kind of cross?
Yes.
Or, where
and
you
actually,
die,
I've had
but you
2
don't
of
cross.
those.
Yeah.
So that's even
there's
wilder.
a difference. Yeah.
Yes. So I've had 3. And
Whoa.
I know, this is really wild, right? And the first one was my very first heart surgery. And it was only 14 seconds. They did come in and resuscitate and do all the things. And I didn't see anything. And
So you didn't cross. You just
it really
died.
stuck with me.
Like you
I
left
felt,
your body, but you didn't go.
right. Like I knew that I flatlined.
portal.
But it bothered me for years. Like I was like, oh, is there nothing? And what is out there?
Oh, like what happens? Yes.
And then the
Interesting.
second time I just saw all these beautiful colors and it just felt like so much love. And but still it was probably shorter. And then the third time, which is the time I was talking about, I had what I call an end of life review. So it's normally when we talk about
wow, yes.
our life kind of flashing before our eyes.
That's pretty far, yeah.
Yeah, it was really wild. I mean, I remember seeing things that I wasn't proud of that I had done.
And you feel them. They say you feel it like a lot.
Absolutely.
What you've done. Yeah.
Yes.
Wrong.
Yes.
Or
well,
right
and that was
with
what was
people.
so beautiful about it. It really wasn't good or bad. It just kind of was. It was like, this is what you have done. This is what you haven't done. One of the things I had not done was had a child. And I didn't, look, we were just talking about this, but I sound so bad saying this. I did not feel like I had to have children to complete me. And
I
so,
agree. I'm the same way.
I was very interested in my career. I was so excited about the path I was on. It wasn't something that felt like it needed to happen.
We're old souls. We've had thousands of kids.
Well,
why do we have to have a kid in every life?
Right. And so we had, my husband and I have been together 21 years. We had gotten pregnant unexpectedly and we had lost that baby. I don't know, maybe 4 months before. It was 5 months before. And I got to meet him.
Oh, wow.
And so his soul came out and he was basically like, listen, there's no way you would have survived that pregnancy. It would have been way too hard on your heart. He showed me
he
all
took
these,
one for the team, kind of.
basically.
He came in and then, yeah.
And he was like, and he was so incredible about it. Like he was basically like, if you decide you don't want to do this, I'm just not going to come. And I was like, oh my gosh. But he was so beautiful and I was so like in love. And like he
and
showed
this is
me.
all in 72 seconds.
Yeah.
Which
I
is
know.
so crazy because there's no such thing as time.
Right.
Which is so
and
hard
that's what's hard too, right? When I would try to explain this to people, I'm like, oh my gosh, like how do you explain, is this almost like analog versus kinolog or, like it's not even close to the same thing, right? Like how could all of this stuff happen in the 72
our
seconds?
conscious brains.
Right.
Yeah.
And so that was overwhelming. And I remember just being and I was shown some really personal things about why I didn't want to have children. And then I proceeded to go on. We all have, this sounds so weird, we all have jobs. I don't know if you know this, but we all work whenever we get into this beautiful space. And so my job, I always talked about working in the records. I didn't know it was records. I just talked about working in a library. And I was recording these things and doing this stuff. And it
Up
was,
there?
Yeah.
Wow.
So
you really got far along in heaven,
there were
honey.
some wild things that happened. I came back talking about things I'd never even heard of before. I kept talking about this big, beautiful archangel. I kept talking about the records.
Did you write all this down?
I did. And my husband's really been encouraging me to write a book for years. I haven't done that. And it was also really like what's really controversial about it probably is that I saw things about past lives, which I know a lot of people, don't always jump on board with. And I also felt connections to multiple different. Okay, do you know what a Unitarian Universalist is?
No.
It's basically they believe that all religion is interconnected. That it's all that God.
I believe that.
Well, I really do too. And that was.
they're all based on love. We're the ones
Right.
that messed it up. When it got into humans, way of controlling humans.
Like for me, the whole experience was about love, and it was about.
Was it a feeling that you
learning.
can't even explain? That's what I hear people say. It's like you can't even use words to explain what it's like.
I always told my husband it felt like I was going home. I mean, it was just so incredibly beautiful.
So, like,
I know, it's
what
really
was
wild to start out like this. Sorry.
what was like the truth that hit you the hardest when you came back to life,
Oh, wow.
back into your body?
So I was given a choice. So I was given a choice of whether or not I wanted to come back or stay. And after meeting Grayson, I just knew that I needed to come back. And so he was very honest with me about how this beautiful angel, it's going to be really hard. Your physical body's going to have a really hard time. And this is going to be part of your path. And are you sure you want to do this? And I think the two things that hit me the most were, oh my gosh, I'm going to have this baby, which if you ask my husband, I literally can remember in tears on the way to, cardiac ICU. I'm crying and I'm trying to tell him about how I met our child and he was so beautiful. And he was like, I don't want to hear anything about this. I don't know if you're getting a heart transplant.
He's worried about your physical human life right now.
What are you talking about?
Saving the human life.
And so that hit me overwhelmingly, like, oh my gosh, and then I guess maybe that there was more. That there was
now
just
you know.
out.
So did that take away the fear of dying?
Absolutely.
That's how I feel, because I've been studying and, under people that have had many experiences and listened to a bunch of podcasts.
Yeah.
And it just, I don't feel like I'm scared.
No, not at all. And I felt like that was like one of the greatest gifts I was given, is that I don't fear that. In fact, it actually feels the opposite. And then maybe the third part was that it has been a wild ride. I don't talk bad about my body. It's worked so hard to keep me here. It's a special body. But it has been a crazy road in terms of my health. And so that has been that was something that I was like, oh, I signed up for this.
Right. So that's what I was going to ask. Like
Oh my gosh.
one last question here, because I could
Yeah.
talk about this forever, about your NDE. Did you ask, like, why do I have these heart issues? Like, what's the why, they say you ask for these things that you're sort of born with or that you bring into your life.
I did, actually. Gosh, wow, I can't believe I'm really going to go there. It's going to sound really wild. Basically what they were showing is that, and I'm going to get really woo-woo, Johnny's going to be like, oh my gosh, what is she talking about? So everything that's kind of happening with like the new earth and the things that are going on with all of our beautiful light workers and everybody that's out there right now, they were showing me that things were evolving and changing, and that we are basically like, I love this about you, because I feel like whenever your energy, like when I've been tapping into it, like just you've been coming through for the last few days, I'm like, oh, she's totally like me in terms of she's definitely a lifelong learner. She's very experiential.
Learner,
like
yes.
we gotta do all the things. We gotta try it all
100%.
ourselves. Like go through all this crazy stuff, right? Make the most of our time here. And as we do that, it used to be that like we would go back into the in-between and we would like level up, and all of your masters and loved ones in the records, your teachers, your guides would be like, oh my gosh, Jennifer, we're so proud of you. Like you did such a good job. And you'd go up these, all these rungs on the ladder. Well, now it's happening in real time. And as we do it
On the earth kind of thing?
it's like, I'm going to venture to say you've probably gone through more of these moments than you probably actually know. But, we set boundaries. We change things. We break some generational cycles. We do big things for us. You take steps like even being here. Like I'm sure you just putting that out there to the universe that you wanted this, right? And we level up a little bit more. And so they were showing basically what's happening is that our energy starts to shift, and you have to like pause and kind of like reacclimate into your body.
The physical part.
Right. And that it's different.
That's what's happening with the heart?
That's at least what they showed.
Wow.
And so
that's
they
really
also
cool.
talked about that happening for others. Like a lot of light workers will experience it either emotionally or physically, and some of us get it both ways. Which I'm a physical girl. I
It's
hate
like
to think
growing
of,
pains in a way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's also intriguing because I feel like, and I know this is so cheesy, but if we listen when our
can be
body
cheesy.
whispers, so it doesn't have to scream.
Yeah.
If I do that, I tend to be really fortunate, and if I gave you the list of things that I have that are quote unquote incurable that are in remission or
Right.
not, it's pretty
Sleeping.
wild.
They're all sleeping.
Yeah, right.
Because you're waking.
I mean, I guess so. It's hard to even like say that. My cardiologist, when I was getting these new fancy pacemakers, I'm on my third and fourth. They are leadless. They have an app.
That's your jewelry.
And yeah, right. I'm totally bionic. She was making a comment about how this is really wild. I thought there was a mistake in your paperwork because you went from pacing, 20-something% of the time to pacing 1% of the time. And, we can't really explain that. And then I went back and realized that it really has. And I think it's just the healing that's happened. And while I continue to do, what I need to make sure things are working, I use it less than 1% of the time, which is really like wild and amazing. And I'm so grateful for that.
Got it. So when you're using it is when you need it.
Right.
Got it. That makes sense.
But yeah, it was a really beautiful experience. It changed my outlook on everything. It took me another 5 years to really, 10 years ago is about when I really started diving into the records and opening up more.
Yeah, so let's talk about how you got into the healing world, the Akashic Records.
Yeah, okay.
And the woo-woo stuff.
So my little boy was probably 3 at the time. We were probably living parallel lives as well then. And we had just moved here. I was working all the time. I was in corporate America. I was busy. And I met this lovely woman who worked with me, and she took me to this crazy psychic fair, and I was like, this is really wild. I don't know. And the lady that read for me was so incredible. She's since passed away. She ended up actually being one of my mentors. Her name is Mary Beth Wren. I don't know if you ever knew Mary. She was lovely. And she kind of gave me this really profound reading, and it just rocked me a little bit. And I went home that night, and I had these incredible dreams, and I was like, oh my gosh, something is going on here. And the same night, my sister was in Seattle at the time, and Veronica called me and said, I know this is really strange, but I was getting a massage yesterday, And the massage therapist halfway through goes, Has your sister had a near-death experience? And she was like, yes. Why? And she's like, would you be open to giving her a message? And she was like, sure. And she's like, I don't know why she's not using her gifts. Like, she really needs to be using her gifts.
Wow.
And she's like, so it was really wild. So it was
So
kind of like
crazy.
It still gives me chills. It was like the
Yes.
same thing where I was like, okay, I'm listening.
This is all connected.
Right. And I called Mary Beth the next day and I said, okay, this is all happening. What do you make of this? How can I learn more with you? And she goes, well, I'm about to start this class at Alara International. Have you ever heard of it? I said, no. And I Google it and it's literally like a mile down the road from my house.
Wow.
I was like, okay, this is wild. And so she was doing it after work. It was something I wouldn't have normally done. And I started popping in and she was teaching how to see your aura. And so I just started like showing up and taking these classes. And I was with 3 other women who I adore and they'll know who they are if they're listening to this. And they just started to become kind of like my tribe. And it was so beautiful. And things just really like started flooding in. And then all of a sudden I was, I'm sure your life's probably been similar. You're in the right place at the right time.
Yeah, it's the
things just
flow.
right,
Yes,
absolutely.
you can't
Like,
explain it.
The universe
Yes.
is just like bringing you beautiful things.
Mhm.
And the records were like that for me. So I really...
So you fell into working with the Akashic Records.
Absolutely.
So can we simplify for people that
Yes.
don't know
Okay.
what they
So
are?
the records
Yes.
are basically a compendium of every like thought, deed, action that your soul has ever done, ever been.
Is it forward too?
Yeah,
Can
absolutely.
ever be? Yes.
The
Okay.
thing about going forward, at least for me, is that depending on if you've planted a seed or like the ball's already in motion, they might tell you what's going on. Otherwise, they might show you paths because you have free will, and it's the most beautiful thing that God ever gave you, right? So
Right.
you could be, you could have multiple paths in terms of your future.
So what would be the purpose of it, right? So you go into the records, a metaphorical library, you
Yep.
see a past life. Is it your spirits showing you what you can learn in this life from that past life, right?
Absolutely.
There's always like some sort of intention or
Right.
learning or healing or growing
Yes,
that can happen.
without a doubt. My favorite thing about the records, I think I was telling you this before, is that they never tell you anything you're not ready to hear.
Mhm.
So it always feels like it's just a safe place.
Yeah.
No one can go in without your permission, which I really love.
Yes.
Um,
And that's how, when I work in sessions, right? Like
Yeah.
people's higher selves don't tell them what they're not
Absolutely.
ready to hear. Like,
Right.
oh, your husband's cheating on you. Well, maybe they'll find out in the way they're supposed to find out. you know?
Right. And then there's so much stuff. I'm a huge believer in the fact that the past heals the present. And so anytime a past life does come forward, you're probably going through something in this current life that is connected to that.
Right.
There's
That's why it's coming forward.
Right,
Yeah, that
right.
makes sense. Yeah.
They're really wonderful at helping us to get unstuck or really like learn lessons or figure out, what our soul purpose is or why we're here, why certain things are happening, right?
Right.
So I always tell people it's better if you ask, what, why, how questions rather than yes or no questions.
Can you give me an example of like a real kind of raw thing that would happen when you're like in the records for a client?
Yes.
Just an example of something
Okay.
for people watching.
Yeah, absolutely. So the records are crazy for me, and I think that everybody's a little different, right? I've started to own the fact that we all kind of do our things in our own way, right? Like you may
Yes.
also do Reiki, and I'm doing Reiki, but maybe they're
Totally.
there's something else. So I will have a lot of different like mediumship stuff that kind of comes through. What I've recognized is that they're normally your guides. So they're normally somebody that are working with you in some way. Maybe they are one of your loved ones in the records, or maybe they are just coming through because they're trying to help you in some really beautiful, like profound way. I've had a few different moments where, gosh, I started one a few weeks ago, and it was so interesting because it's somebody that I've known for a long time, but I haven't read for her. And so I won't say her name, but whenever she sat down, like right away, I was like, so there's somebody that's been kind of following me around for about 24 hours, and I feel so safe with you. I'm so, open that, I kind of let them come in, and they're really showing up now that we've opened the records. But, did your mother-in-law pass away? Is this her name? And I mean, oh my gosh, she was so sweet. She was in tears within like seconds. And I always think it's so profound whenever they just start delivering those messages where sometimes we don't know that we need that message or we need that closure. And then all of a sudden something comes through.
I think sometimes too it can be so simple but so powerful from the others. I
Absolutely.
feel like they have a way of really simplifying.
Right. Right. Without a doubt.
Yeah.
And there's also, there's been big stuff in there too where I think talking about future things, I've had some moments where I'll actually give her a plug too. There's this really lovely place called Soul Wellness in Mooresville.
I've seen that.
So Kristen, years and years ago came in, and when we did it, I was like, oh my gosh, I think you're going to have this really beautiful wellness center. I think there's going to be some really cool stuff. And they were just like, you're doing this. Like, it wasn't even like they were past. It was just like, so I feel bad. I'm kind of, but since she went to fruition, I'll throw that out there, right? But it's always really beautiful when they do show that stuff too. So those are always really profound for me. I think the biggest healing moments are the ones that are I love all the past life stuff. So
Same.
I think there's
it's just
like,
all connected.
absolutely.
It's like you're watching a movie, like a
Yes.
sequels and
Yes, absolutely. And so it's always really intriguing whenever somebody will reach out and be like, oh my gosh, this, didn't make a whole lot of sense then, but then this happened.
I think also when you really start to dive into past lives and like the Akashic Records, it makes you take this life not as seriously because you're like, I've had so many, I'm going to have so many more potentially or move on to some other realm or dimension. But I think when you have that belief that this is the only life, we can take it very seriously.
Oh, absolutely.
And, shame yourself because you're not where you're supposed to be in this one life.
Right.
I say YOLO, but I don't mean it. I say YOLO all the time. I'm like, but I really don't mean
funny,
it.
actually. I'm like, yeah, I don't know if I
I'm
believe
like
you
a
have one
wild
lecture there.
child. Yeah,
I'm like,
YOLO.
I think there's way more than that. But my child would totally probably, he would cringe at me if he heard me like saying that, I'm sure.
My kid thinks none of this is cool because I think it's cool.
Absolutely.
He hates yoga. He hates spirituality. He wants to listen to Kanye West. Kanye West. I can't even say his name.
To be fair, I think Grayson's totally got he's intrigued. And I don't know if he's like yours and all, but that child came out of the womb with some past life stuff in there. I mean, literally, I can remember him being 2 and taking him to the library and him pointing to this Egyptian book and me being like, you can't read that, it's too big. And he was like, oh, begging for it. And so we finally got it. And we went home that night, I was asking my husband, I was like, have you guys already checked this out? I was like, no. And he would go through and be like, that's Augment 10. That's, and I was like, oh, obsessed. And so he's like, did they do this for yours for preschool where you hold up the little picture and it's like, when I graduate, I want to be
something? Yes.
So, and everybody's a doctor or a ballerina or whatever, fireman. And Grayson said, when I grow up, I want to be an Egyptologist.
Oh, what?
Yeah, exactly.
Bless you.
Yeah, Egyptologist. They are literally have degrees that are kind of like in anthropology or history.
That's cool.
They just the ones excavating. Yes, he's just been completely obsessed.
So
ever since
he's an old soul too.
He's had an attraction to it for a long time.
So let me ask you this:
Yeah,
if something does come through that you feel and but it's not necessarily something that they are not ready to hear but want to hear. Right. How do you phrase it with your language in a way that's like, maybe you should, go to the doctor and get that checked out?
I do always try to be
very,
this actually, you just gave me another good example of something in the records. No, I try to always if it comes through, I'm going to share it because again, I feel like they're sharing it for a reason. Mm-hmm. I think because of my health journey and my body, I'll get a lot of, I would never claim to be a medical intuitive, but I will. For some reason, I have a lot of people end up coming to me for.
That's a lofty label.
It is.
Yes.
It is, and I don't like to put that on there. But I do always give that disclaimer that I'm not a doctor. But hey, if this stuff comes through, I'm absolutely going to share it for you
because that's what you've been through, right? So you're more of because I'm more of an emotional healer. I would say like traumas, and belief systems, because that's like what I'm working on with me is how to be empowered, coming from like an unempowered, place, and so it's like what you've gone through,
right? Absolutely,
yeah.
And as us as experiential learners, right?
Yeah,
and I think we attract people that are going through similar things.
Yes.
And I can remember doing a reading about a year ago, and she was so lovely. And she wasn't there for this. She was there for something completely different. And they did enlighten her on that subject. But I just kept going back to her throat chakra and going back to her throat chakra. And finally I was like, I don't normally do this, but if you could just please have your thyroid checked out. Like if you could just check on this, I can't stop. Like they just won't.
So you wouldn't say are you speaking your truth? You would actually say the physical.
I did. I was like, and we did. I'm sure we talked about some things like, hey, I think some things are blocked, but I think this has progressed to something different, and I'm feeling something really physical.
Because once it gets to the physical state, you have to address it physically a lot of times, right? Nothing's black and
white. And I think there's both. You got to kind of
energy, emotion, physical.
Right. And about a year later, it was just recently, a few months ago, she popped back into Alara, and she was like, I don't know if you remember that. I was like, I did, and I've been so worried about you, but I also didn't want to be a weirdo and, kind of reach out. And she goes, well, I ended up having thyroid cancer. And they caught it right after that. And she goes, I never would have gone in. But she goes, you can see and she did. She had all these scars and all these things that she'd been through. And she's like, and I'm good. We got it. And she's got young kids like us, and she's a mom.
I hope she bought a big crystal.
She does actually.
She needs a big crystal. She needs to support your business.
She is amazing.
So when you tap in, do you feel, see, hear? What are your gifts, or all of the above?
Kind of.
I get drawn to things. Like you said, you were drawn. That's how I am. When I'm drawn to something in someone, that's where I'm like, oh, they're holding trauma.
Yes.
And then I explore deeper.
Right. And that's a perfect way to describe it.
Okay, cool.
I do see a lot. So normally I get a lot of visuals, and it might not make sense to. I've learned to trust it. So I might see something kind of crazy for you. Gosh, I'm not even going to go in the records. I'm going to do weird stuff for you.
Honey, get it out.
Okay. So the other day,
read me.
That Jay, I was just seeing 2 J's, but I kept seeing, and it was so funny because I had this overwhelming feeling, and that he was literally like your gosh, like probably the safest relationship, like the safest place you've
100%.
ever had. It was like really beautiful. It was like a little overwhelming.
It really is.
And he kept
that makes me
referring
cry.
to you, and I was like, oh, this is past life. There's something really past life there. And then I was like, well, I'm trying not to invade your privacy, right?
Honey,
but I kept
you can invade my privacy.
Well, I figured
I
you
should have
must be
texted you that.
open.
Yeah.
But he kept talking about you being a queen, and he was like, my queen, my queen,
He
my
calls
queen.
me my queen.
No, he doesn't. Okay.
He's my king. He's 6'5".
Oh my
So he's big. So he's my king.
Oh,
and
that gives me chills.
Oliver's my prince, my kid, and then Johnny's my king. So, and he calls me yes. Aww.
I'm sure there's more with that, but
Oh, like maybe there's like some past life.
Uh-huh.
He has king energy. Like he could just like
Okay.
sit on that throne all day and just be, throwing food at him.
Okay.
You know?
Okay. Well, there was
He's
something
got, like,
funny
this
there.
King energy.
But it was really beautiful, like the way that I felt that connection, the way that and I did, like I felt like, I was like, and that's why I kept thinking about you and I maybe mirroring each other because I was like, oh, she's gone through a lot to get to this relationship.
Oh yes, honey. Lots of frogs to get to my king.
And you know what? Like how doesn't that speaks volumes about you not giving up, about you continuing to like be a survivor and persevere. Like that's amazing. That's really cool. Okay, so I'm glad I did that.
It took me a while to undo what I wanted to undo, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like with belief systems and
Absolutely.
empowerment and boundaries and all
Right.
that stuff. Yeah.
And I'm sure there's more in that too. Well, do you want to jump into your
Yes.
records?
Yeah. Well, so we have 4 minutes. Do you want to go to break and then do it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Everyone. On that note, this show is going to be your past life. Not really. We'll be right back after a word from our sponsor.
Okay.
Welcome back to this week's segment of What's Trending Now on Our Beats Radio, Media, and Streaming Network. First of all, I'd like to take a second to thank y'all for tuning in to What's Trending Now and making all of our dreams here at ourbeats.com come true. My name is Annalise Pearl, and my new single, Lightheaded, comes out on April 25th. Stay tuned for more information as we get right into our DJ World Beats top trending songs. Now let's get started with this week's events. Upcoming local, national, and international concerts. Let's start off with Tosca Music's Juneberry Jams, located in Norwood, North Carolina. About an hour drive from Charlotte with a line packed with soulful rock and roll, bluesy grits, and foot-stomping rhythms, taking place on Saturday, May 31st. Event starts at 5:30 p.m. You can get your tickets at toscamusic.org. Black Box Charlotte presents Techno Music Vibrations featuring DJ and electronic producer Cloud. Taking place on Friday, May 2nd. Doors open at 10 p.m. You can get your tickets at blackboxcharlotte.com. Galantis is performing a set at the Trio nightclub in Charlotte on Friday, May 16th. Doors open at 9 p.m. and you can get your tickets at triocharlotte.com. And this is Annalise Pearl, bringing you all the new details on the latest trending watercourt conversations. Stay on top of the Our Beats app and ourbeats.com, always bringing you the best independent, national, and international music artists, concerts, and influences on the Our Beats app. You all know the drill. Now let's get started with this week's DJ World Beats top trending songs. Spinning now on 25/8/366, our global pop stream, DJ World Beats brings you 7 Days of Freak by Kashmir, Shiniko, and Daidi, Something to Believe In by Avalon Roxton. And trending now on Our Beats Radio, our house and EDM stream, we have Bad Guy by Zed's Dead, Vortex by Umat Azkan. Coming up on We Global Radio, our hip hop and R&B stream, we have Run It Up by Humankind, Yeah Yeah and Millions by Lou Sarar featuring Anetta Boy, La 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 by Redman featuring Method Man. And closing out on USA Heroes, our classic rock and country station, we have Glass Heart by Dark Chapel and Still Dancin' by Billy Idol. And that concludes this week's countdown. Be sure to check in at our social media sensation show, What's Trending Now, and be sure to check out RBTZ TV on YouTube and ourbeats.com, and be on the lookout for my single, Lightheaded, coming out on April 25th. Thanks for watching.
Our Beats Radio isn't just a platform, it's a movement. A universal internet radio and media hub that has become the heartbeat of music discovery.
With a staggering peak of 7 million listens and an average of 80,000 listens per month, the world is tuning in. That's not just numbers, those are ears and eyes.
Yes, your brand amplified and elevated only on Our Beats Radio. Navigate the digital airwaves seamlessly with our intuitive platform. Imagine your brand being heard, being felt, being experienced. Picture your message flowing through the veins of our global network, reaching each listener.
Are you ready to elevate your brand to new heights? Step into the rhythm of success with Our Beats Radio.
Our platform is designed to ensure your brand doesn't just appear, it resonates. It doesn't just speak, it sings, dances, and vibrates with the rhythm of our audience's lives. This isn't just about advertisements. This is about creating a symphony where your brand is the melody. We're not just a service, we're an experience, and your brand can be at the center of it all. Your brand deserves a global stage. At Our Beats, we've turned up the volume on global outreach. This isn't about traditional advertising, it's about connecting, engaging, and resonating with music lovers all over the world. From indie beats in Brooklyn to mainstream hits in Mumbai, your brand becomes part of their story. It's about making your brand the rhythm that pulses through their day. Amplify your reach, connect with diverse audiences, and make an impact like never before.
Numbers don't lie. Our Beats isn't just a platform, it's a data-driven powerhouse. With a staggering 7 million peak listens and an impressive average of 80,000 listens per month, we're tuned into the pulse of the music world.
This is the power of a data-driven platform. We're not just throwing your brand into the void, we're strategically placing it in the spotlight, in front of an engaged, diverse, and music-loving audience.
Music is universal, and so is your brand's potential. Our Beats Radio is the crossroads where brands and music lovers from all walks of life converge.
Maximize your brand impact. Imagine your brand pulsating with the rhythm of music, reaching millions of ears and eyes worldwide. Picture your message resonating with each beat, each melody, each tune. This isn't just advertising, this is brand elevation, a symphony of success. Don't just be heard, be felt. Be a part of the rhythm of Our Beats Radio. The stage is set, the audience is waiting. It's time for your brand to join the beat. Advertise with Our Beats Radio today. Our Beats Radio, your brand, Our platform is your stage to amplify your brand's voice. This is where rhythm meets success, where your brand dances to the tune of progress. For advertising inquiries, contact www.ourbeats.com.
Welcome back, everybody, to We Talk Raw. We are here with Anna Flowers, and you are an Akashic Records specialist. That's your new title.
Okay.
So we've been talking all about it, and we're going to have a little sample from you. Are you
Absolutely.
ready to dive
Yes,
into my
without a doubt.
Akashic Records?
Yes.
But you're going
Are
through
you
my
ready
underwear
for this?
drawer.
Really? So I just feeling you, I'm assuming that you've gone into your records
Yes,
before. Okay.
yes.
So normally I'll read this little prayer. I'll be quiet for a second, but I'm still here, which might be weird on air. So
Okay.
give everybody the
We
disclaimer
can
ahead of
edit
time.
it out.
Just feeling your energy, though. I have a feeling that you'll open very quickly. I do close my eyes a lot, so I always
Okay,
like to give
no
everybody
problem.
that disclaimer. And I love the records. I know I talked about this before, but just because I do feel like everything I tell you, you're ready to hear it. Even if it's something heavy, even if it's something harder, our soul's ready
So
to handle that and move
beautiful, yes.
forward, right? So I always feel like that's such a beautiful gift. I'm going to tell you this too because I have a feeling that they're going to go there with you. If any big angels, guides, teachers, loved ones come forward with names or whatever it might be, that's important because it's normally more about the lesson we're learning than who we're working with, but not always. Sometimes it's important for us to know who to connect with. Or
So am I
give you
supposed to be
some-
paying attention to that? Is that what you're saying?
Oh, no. I just want you to know that
Okay.
if I throw out like a random name
Oh.
or tell you something about that, there's probably a reason why they're giving you that name.
Got
There's probably a reason why they're letting you know.
Okay, great. Let's do this.
Will you say your full name, first, middle, last?
Me?
Mhm,
Yes.
As you are now?
Jennifer Johnny Busco.
Okay, perfect. All right, here we go. And so we do acknowledge the forces of light, asking for guidance, direction, and courage to know the truth as it is revealed for our highest good and the highest good of everyone connected to us. O Holy Spirit of God, help me to know Jennifer in the light of the Akashic Records, to see Jennifer through the eyes of the Lords of the Records, and enable me to share the compassion and wisdom that the masters, teachers, and loved ones of Jennifer have for her. Okay, the records are now open. You open in like 5 seconds.
I was like asking my spirit.
Like,
oh,
I'm
my
pretty
chakras.
sure
Yeah.
they're open before we even got here. Everybody always opens in a different way for me, and I think that's really powerful because it's always a direct reflection of something of your soul.
Mm-hmm.
And so immediately when we were walking in, I literally could see you kind of stepping out of the space. And do you know what the violet flame is? You work with the violet flame at all?
No.
Okay, you should check that out. It's
Okay.
really, really cool. The violet flame is a beautiful way for us to just kind of dissipate any negative energy, any extra energetic
Okay.
debris.
I do
things
like
that-
UV kind of
Okay.
energy. That's what
I
I do
like
with
that.
like,
That's not
like
surprised
that
by that.
purpley, yeah.
But it's basically, I felt like you were like stepping out of the violet flame. So I could see this big, beautiful, like, fire and you kind of walking out of it. The analogy I would have is almost like, when like thinking about like sculpting something, and like when we put it in the kiln, it becomes, you know, completely different, right? Like you're firing it, it becomes so much more stable and strong and sturdy. And it's we think about fire as really being like cleansing, and clearing, right? Transformational. So there's all these things that kind of are coming along with it, which feel important. The other thing that was interesting about it was I could literally see you like flitting through different versions of yourself right away, and I was like, okay, that's interesting. I will tell you that everybody, like when I see your book open, if you open in the library where I can see all the other volumes, it's because you're supposed to be working with other souls right now. You're supposed to be helping them on their journey. You're supposed to be helping them to, you know.
Did you see that?
Yes.
Yeah.
And so that's like, and it's important. And you might, you know, we might do another reading in 2 months, and you might be in a room by yourself because you're supposed to be working on self-healing at that moment in time. But it's always this kind of beautiful ebb and flow. And it's really interesting to me whenever you're in that space, because it does mean that you're reaching out and you're touching it. I would affectionately refer to you. I mean, I know that you know this, but we all have things that are part of the fabric of our soul. You're always going to be a healer. You're always going to be that lifelong learner, experiential learner, like I was talking about 100%. Too. You also kind of have that fiery energy, which is really fun.
I do.
So like, you know, it's like you come in there with a lot of passion, and that can be really big and really beautiful. There's also, and you probably have already learned this, but
so are you reading this right now? Like, are you okay.
What I would say is that sometimes your energy can be really intense for people. And so,
Yes.
and if it is, like, you know, like I was thinking about you coming in with all that fire and all that love and all that joy, those aren't your people, you know? Like,
Exactly.
I'm sure
Thank
you've already
you for
figured that
saying
out.
Yes. And I've learned not to judge or take that personally.
Right, absolutely. Yeah. I don't think it means, you know, I don't think it has to be a bad thing. You know, they don't show it as really being like, you know, good or bad. I can tell you that you have a lot of people that are part of your soul tribe that have been traveling with you for a really long time.
Interesting.
So
I'm curious about that. Okay.
Well, okay, I don't know if you've seen this with Oliver, but Oliver has definitely followed you around.
Aw, my boy.
And it's so funny because I was already picking stuff up on him, but you have actually, I mean, I will refer to him as a soulmate. And I say a soulmate, not a twin flame, because the energy is like harmonious. Like
It's very easy.
Yes.
Other than him being a 13-year-old, the energy's very easy.
Yeah, you know,
like when we travel together, it's just like so easy. That's how you know. You
Yes,
know?
absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think it's really, I mean, I know you probably already know this, but just for our listeners, you know, soulmates can come in many different forms, you know.
And they're here to teach you. He
That's
teaches me. He's
right.
like, stop doing that. You know,
Absolutely.
He
Well, you
calls
guys
me out on things all the time.
You guys have some big soul contract stuff in there too. So that's interesting.
Oh, Lord.
But you also have that with your other gentleman. We'll call him your JJJ.
My JJJ, that's it.
But you know, he's got some really beautiful harmonious vibes in there too. Like,
so
I mean,
much.
I see him as a place of protection, a place of safety.
Yes.
You know,
Even physically, because he's so large, you know?
I haven't asked you this yet, obviously. I know that you're a healer. I know that you're intuitive. I could definitely tell you that there's some huge mediumship stuff that you could do as well.
I just finished a training, or I'm finishing up a training.
really
So,
cool.
yeah, I'm practicing
That's
in
awesome.
like the legit way.
Okay.
It comes through in sessions, but this is like, I'm practicing it in the skillful
Okay.
way. Yeah.
That's awesome. I
Yeah.
mean, that's something that's actually been a part of you for a really long time.
Yeah.
I'd affectionately refer to you as a seer. But okay, so tell me about, because I see some medical intuitive stuff with you too.
Really?
Yeah. And I also
Maybe I need to tap into that more.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was just
'Cause
curious.
like I said earlier, I do a lot of the emotional stuff.
Yeah.
But I do think I need to tap into that more.
Okay. I was like, so I see some of those pieces kind of coming through, which is really intriguing.
But I think the emotions are the root cause of the physical pain. So
Right,
maybe that's
right.
kind of, yeah.
Right. And I
yeah.
think that it's definitely
I have
interesting.
many clients that say, oh my gosh, my
Absolutely.
hip stopped hurting after our session. Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
And that's like the best feeling.
Right, without a doubt.
Yeah.
You do have some interesting stuff going, we'll say current life
I'm
regression.
like, are you sugarcoating?
I am. I am going to sugarcoat this one. I mean this with so much love because I actually feel like you have a really positive relationship. But going back to your mother, back to this lifetime. So I would have, just the way that I see it in the records, there's a lot of stuff that seems to be connected to fear, maybe is the right way to say that. And maybe the way that she kind of went through, you know, just, and there's a lot
It's like
of
a scarcity thing. That's like my struggle, like a scarcity mindset that I'm trying to work on. Yeah.
And I can only see the things that are connected to you.
Yeah.
That makes sense about her.
Yes.
But there's some really heavy stuff in there about wanting to protect you. There was a lot of like, you know, kind of fearfulness stuff about, and there were things like talking about breaking generational patterns. There's some big stuff for you.
I'm trying though.
But
Am I working on trying?
A lot of
She just got
things.
diagnosed with Alzheimer's too,
Oh,
so
my
her
goodness.
vibe has shifted 100%. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff with her.
Truthfully, I really do feel like there's so much love and so much, you know, in terms of her like sending her vibes out to you.
I think now that she has Alzheimer's, she seems more loving, but she's very fear-based, very
Interesting.
guilt-ridden, very fear-based, very worried about the Joneses, very judgmental.
Yeah, I would say there's
Yes.
probably a lot of
With
stuff
all
for
the love
you
in the world.
that was overcoming that and like even like trusting, you know, that like, and feeling safe. And that goes back to your JJJ goes back to this your king, like he's got big stuff about
He's heart-based.
Yeah.
He's all heart.
And
Can you feel
protecting
that?
you.
Mhm.
Like, it's like, I mean, I literally think he's like your safe space.
Mhm.
Like, it's like, it just like wraps you like all within. I was like, oh, that is amazing.
So
It's
do you see like marriage and that kind of stuff when you look at those kind of things?
Sometimes.
Like long-term partnerships?
I will tell you guys that you feel like there were a lot of other forces pulling you guys together.
Really?
Yeah. So it's interesting though, seeing the way that, we'll talk about like, I think you probably already know this, but you have huge angels and guides. So, you fill up the room whenever you come into the space.
Oh, thank you.
But there's some big stuff in there about, and this is interesting because I didn't even get to this part yet, but you do have a lot of musical stuff. So of course you're being here.
I want to cry. Music's like my second love.
Okay. I just saw all this stuff. Like, I don't know if you
Singing
do
is like my,
okay.
yeah.
Coming
That
out
is like that's my love.
All right, that's awesome. But I saw huge things with Archangel Sandalphon, and I don't normally see him. Do you work with him a lot?
No.
Okay.
I'm going to have to Google
Call
it.
on him. Totally look into him.
Sandalphon?
Mhm.
Oh my God, I'm so excited.
He is
I just ask
amazing.
the archangels every day, like, help me, like just call, they say
Okay.
they like to be called upon.
Yeah, absolutely. I would definitely encourage you to like work with him,
Okay.
like in a little bit more of a like personal.
Write that
Yes,
down.
exactly. I say this because I think you've got big seer stuff, but when I do see him come forward, he has a lot of stuff that's like very turquoise or very like kind of. He's got this beautiful kind of blue light around him.
Ooh.
So if you start to see like blues or like kind of
Okay,
like the
that's
turquoise
him?
teal, yep, that's him. He actually has something that's really connected to Oliver too. So I don't know what that's about.
So is he giving me something or protecting me from something or just
He has a
working
lot
with
of-
me?
I think he's just working with you.
Yeah.
But I think he's actually helping you in your healing sessions.
Ooh.
Do you do stuff with the light language?
I do like a chant. So
Okay.
yes, it's
Okay.
or
Right on.
I channel energy, and it doesn't come out like an alien light language.
Yeah.
It comes out in like not in key songs.
Okay.
Does that make sense? I do
think
that a lot. Yeah.
He's working with you when you're doing that.
Oh, cool.
So there's some really cool stuff that I'm kind of coming through with that one. I'm like, oh.
yeah, I've been
okay.
told that's like one of my gifts is like to channel
Oh.
energy through my voice.
Without a doubt.
I'm very throat chakra
Okay,
centric. Yeah.
not surprised.
Yeah.
Even just healing that, right?
Yeah.
You have some huge stuff too, and you probably already know this, but some of your teachers that come forward in the records, and this might be me too, because I do tend to attract people that have some Christ consciousness kind of stuff in there, but you do have some huge stuff with Mary Magdalene and Mother Mary coming forward.
Jess Magnum told me that.
We love to tell you guys
She's
the same thing.
Mary Magdalene. She told me.
Yeah, not surprised. But normally when I do see them come forward, it's about us. And this is probably for like all moms, right? But there's some big stuff about self-care. Like there's some big things about like remembering to fill our cup too.
Yes,
Like, you might tend to go around and give everybody else like everything that they need. You have, it's so funny. I'm trying to like condense everything into this tiny little part of the session, but you do have some really big stuff too with the people that like not just Oliver or your significant other, but even others like that are following you around. I would actually say that they're part of the Magdalens, including one of your teachers that you work with really closely.
Like one of my physical,
Like
probably
I would
Dana. Like one of my physical
full body
teachers.
chills when you said that. So yeah,
Yeah, she's like my
okay.
like,
So
teacher,
she's got
yeah.
huge Christ consciousness things too. Again, I can only see the things that are connected to you, but she's in the records all the time, evidently.
Oh yeah, that's where I got trained from.
Oh.
Yeah, she's
Of course you
yeah,
did.
she's a great teacher. She's,
Okay.
Yeah,
Well, you guys have traveled together before. You probably already felt
Yeah,
that.
we have traveled.
Yeah, so I would love that too. I actually see some. Do you want to know some past life stuff in there
Sure,
too?
yes.
Okay. So I can definitely see some stuff too connected back to your JJJ. Like I see some stuff that's actually in Scotland with you guys.
like we've been in past lives together.
Yeah.
Oh,
It's interesting too because you guys tend to, and I see this every once in a while as a pattern for people. Not a lot, but it tends to be like a recurring pattern for you guys where you will almost have like a first life, or maybe two lives, and then you come together and like that. Later on in life, if that makes sense.
oh, so like a big gap between lives.
Yeah. No, not a big gap between lives, but like, and this one is probably a perfect example. Like, in this lifetime, I see you doing a lot of other things, being with someone else romantically, trying some things out. And it does feel there's some tumultuous stuff with your romantic past. So I don't know what that's
Right.
about, other than the fact that I feel like there's some big things that you've overcome.
I've dated a-holes.
Okay,
yeah,
yeah,
daddy
that's
issues.
fair. Okay,
Yeah, just daddy
I'm like,
issues.
okay,
yeah.
I'm like, yeah, and it feels like there's been a
Yeah,
lot of
yeah.
stuff that you've overcome though.
Yeah, yeah, 100%.
And healed. And
That's why I do this work.
Right.
That's why I share it with others because I've
Exactly.
seen, and he's the mirror of that.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's perfect.
Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely. And so like that kind of tends to be a recurring theme where you kind of go through this stuff, like, your
But
first
I'm
part
done
of your
with
life.
it, right?
I think so.
Jesus.
I feel like there's multiple things that you've been clearing and breaking and
Yes,
stuff. There's been a
100%.
huge thing in this lifetime. It's almost like the way that, like, when you're at the end of the loom and you're kind of like tying up the loose ends, like that's what I feel like. There's a lot of stuff happening right now.
Yes.
You're like, nope.
Yes.
We're good. We don't need to do
Like
that
an
again.
onion,
We don't
honey.
need to do that
There's
again.
always a layer.
But I do think, like, when I go to that Scottish lifetime, it's really beautiful. I can see stuff about, and And this is interesting too, because I think you've got big kind of like what I would call chameleon vibes. Like I feel like you can do a lot.
100%.
Okay, so
Yes,
like
I'm
you can
such
fit
a
in multiple different
Oh
groups.
my God.
And
I have
like
so many different kinds of friends. You have no idea.
I love
And
that.
a lot of them are even like spiritual, but it's
Okay.
just, it works.
and
you
it's
know?
supposed to be that way.
Yeah,
you
it
know,
just
like you're
works.
supposed to be part. And truthfully, like when I saw you in the very beginning, you opened up with all those other books. You're supposed to be a connector. You're supposed to be a
I
bridge.
am
How are you ever
100%
going to do
connector.
that if you're not hanging out in all these different
Yes,
spaces,
I'm
right?
a community connector.
Yeah,
That's my third love.
Well, there you go. Even through your music, there's a lot of stuff. I mean, truthfully, I feel like your music even brought you here. You know, so.
And yeah, it did, because through an open mic I was hosting.
Oh, that's really
Yeah.
cool. Okay,
Yeah,
so there's a lot of stuff about that just kind of aligns. You have big teacher vibes too. So
100%. I love
okay.
teaching.
Okay, that's a huge
Like
thing for
spiritual
you.
teaching. Is that what you mean?
What are you in human design?
Manifesting generator.
Ooh,
Yeah.
that makes so much sense. Okay,
I love leading teacher trainings and
Okay.
doing the yogic philosophy
awesome.
and yoga and stuff like that. That was like,
Okay,
yeah,
very cool.
Love it.
Not surprised.
And that's what I love to do on social media. You know,
Yeah.
we're trying not to be too pushy, but I love that sort of teaching energy.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That feels so aligned and so right for you. Like that really makes a lot of sense. But there was a lot of stuff in terms of that lifetime where you felt like you came from somewhere else, if that makes sense. So I'm going to assume England, someplace. It feels so old that I don't even know if we really
Like, have a word for it.
right. You know, like I don't know if it really was England and Scotland then. You know what I mean? Like it feels it goes kind of maybe even Britannia-ish, like something strange.
I'll take it.
Okay. Yeah, actually, we're going to go even further than that. Like, it's not even like England. It's, imagine being in a place where it's very Celtish. It's so old that there's like Romans starting to come in and starting to like do stuff. So it's someplace completely different.
Wow.
And so I can see them actually coming over. I can see you actually embodying like a whole form of dress that we'd almost think of when we think of kind of like this medieval type of like
Was I
vibe.
female?
Yes, you were in that lifetime. I saw you kind of flitting through like different versions of yourself in the very beginning, and everyone I saw was female. That doesn't mean that they all are. It just means that whatever's connected to you today at this point in time has got some big divine feminine kind of vibes, probably.
That makes sense.
Okay, good. I'm glad that makes sense to you. But what was interesting about it was that JJ's got some he's got some big warrior vibes, and he's also got some of this diplomat, which is really interesting.
Did you say diplomat?
Yeah, he's always been like I feel like you were kind of coming over from some other place, and he feels very connected to the land. So I would have said that he was actually from whatever. Like I would have thought he was like Irish or Scottish.
So
or
he's an
something.
old soul too. I've been told that, right? Yes.
And he's very
Because in this life, he's not spiritual, but you can tell he's an old soul. One of those people.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
interesting. Yeah, absolutely. And I think he even felt that with you. Like he just felt connected and pulled in. Like there's a familiarity there.
100%.
Truthfully, I don't know if they've recognized it or not. Hopefully they have. But even him and Oliver have some stuff that's connected together, which is really beautiful. And I love that too.
They're great, yeah.
He's kind of makes me think of like a giant teddy bear, and I know that
Yes,
sounds really
he is.
okay. But that's what I get of in this other lifetime too. Is he always tends to embody this very like giant.
You can tell that he's always been that.
Really?
He has that vibe.
Oh, that's so funny. Yeah, he just has this really like big, beautiful like energy, and he comes across with this warrior stuff. And then as soon as he starts to be the one who's like that peacemaker, you're like, oh, that's not what I expected. Like don't
He's
judge a book
soft.
by its cover kind of thing.
Yes.
But you ended up coming in from somewhere else, and so when you guys did combine together, I felt like you guys were kind of like this ultimate power couple.
Back in the day.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, back in the day. Maybe you could be now too.
That's cool.
I don't know exactly what his, human design stuff is in there too. Sometimes that stuff will come through as well. But I will tell you that you guys tend to amplify things whenever you focus on things together. So that's really powerful.
That's good to know.
I think the biggest thing is about you guys being aligned and like talking about what you want and
Yes.
like laying it out there together, right? But there's some really beautiful stuff in there too about just thinking about the future and kind of where things are going. If he wants to stick around for a long time, there's an opportunity too.
I mean, you mean live in his body?
No, I mean like with you. I mean like you guys seem to just fit
Like we could make it
together.
work. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like it just feels good and easy and right. And,
Yeah.
And I think that's what both of your souls are looking for is the stuff that just feels like,
Yeah.
that it actually feeds your soul and feels good and,
Yes.
rejuvenates you versus being hard work, right?
Yes.
And so I think there's something really beautiful about that. But yes, also in this body, I could see him having a very long life. Okay, I want you people to ask questions. I feel like they're just going to keep talking to you.
So how do I ask this? So when you're in a session with someone, do they ask a question before you go on the Akashic Records?
No, normally...
Or you just go in and then, because I didn't ask a question, but I'm just, for the viewers, right, how that works.
I always try to give people like a heads up, like, hey, if you guys want to go ahead and like, think about some things that are important to you or important to your soul. There's no such thing as a silly question on the records, right? Like if it's important to you, then it's important to them. But
And are those spirit guides that you're communicating with? Is it my spirit? Is it
it's a little bit
angels?
different.
Right?
It's your spirit guides.
Because
your
an angel came through. You
Yeah.
said spirit guides, but
Right.
you're communicating with the Akashic Records. But I know it's all connected, right? Because we're all one.
Right.
So it's all the same.
So it is. It's interesting. So
Yeah.
there's masters, teachers, guides, and loved ones. So if that makes sense. So like really like like lords, masters, teachers, and loved ones.
Yeah.
Right, probably right hierarchy. So the lords are kind of like the big CEO, right? Or, and then we kind of step down, and the masters are going to be like our VPs, and then
Coming from corporate America.
Yeah, right. I know. Like, and then our teachers are going to be like the directors, and then our loved ones are like all of us like out there like worker bees, like getting all the things done. You work a lot more with your teachers, and Sandalphin's one of your teachers in the records.
Okay.
And you work a ton with your loved ones. There's a loved one that's pretty newly crossed over. And he's working with, his name is Jim. I'm sorry.
Oh, that's so amazing.
Can I just see a piano? Okay. So he's one of your, no, full wish. So he's working in the records.
I love you, Jim.
Um,
I actually interviewed him here.
oh my gosh.
We did an
I mean,
offset.
too.
Yeah.
So
What is he helping me with? That's what I want to know.
he's actually always been about you being you, like about you connecting to your authentic self, about your gifts, about sharing your gifts with the world. So his stuff in the records feels like it's very much like whenever you like work with your actually I think he's connected to Sandalphon, so this is a perfect example. Sorry, oh my gosh. He doesn't feel like he crossed over that long ago.
Like a month.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he was 96.
Holy moly.
He's
Okay.
the best piano player
Okay,
in
that makes a
Charlotte.
lot of sense too, because a lot of times
He was ready.
it takes, people always talk about this, and your mediumship thing, they probably talked about this as well. For me, I won't even try to do mediumship stuff for a lot of people for like
Takes
6
time.
months.
Yeah.
Let them
Everyone's
people to kind of,
different. Mhm.
but I do think when we're ready to transition.
He was ready. And I helped him. I was kind of there when like
That makes so much sense.
Within like 12 hours, I was there giving him energy, helping him,
Makes so
calling
much
in the
sense.
angels. Yeah.
There also can be really big stuff too about us kind of starting to transition maybe even sooner than we think. You know what I mean? Like kind of crossing over in our sleep, doing other stuff like a little sooner, like,
Oh, right.
starting
Yeah.
to,
We
like-
talked about that yesterday. Yes.
Yeah.
yes,
Okay,
yeah.
that's so funny.
Yes. Mhm. Like when you're not conscious, you're kind of,
Right,
yeah.
right.
And then when I saw him, he wasn't talking to me, but he was still alive. And
Okay.
so I
and that's what
kind
it felt like. I was like, oh, he was
yeah.
transitioning longer.
I think there's a
than-
little fear about him going, and that's kind
Okay.
of where I came in. And I think that's probably where he felt maybe some of my gifts.
I'm just going to reiterate that since we're touching on that right now. I know we just talked about that kind of off air, but I do think you have huge gifts in terms of helping souls to transition. If you ever decided that
That's
you want
where
to
I'm
step
look,
into
that's where I'm
being a
going.
death doula,
So the universe is supporting that.
yeah,
Yeah.
beyond.
Yeah,
and
I
he will
feel that.
support you on that too. But no,
He's like my testimonial.
yeah, he is.
He's my first client.
Well, and it's so funny because he must know you well enough. Did you know him for a long time? How long did
A
you know
long,
him?
20 years, but just like he was a piano player at a restaurant that I worked at the Cajun Queen for 20 years. So we always said, if I was 50 years older, you were 50 years younger, we'd be together.
Okay, I
And we'd
love
like
that.
kiss on the lips. That was
That's
our
awesome.
running joke.
Oh my gosh.
Because
Okay.
he's 50 years older than me.
Okay, that's a perfect example then too of how our loved ones come in. So our loved ones, everybody in the records has to apply for that job, right? So it's not just like they can just randomly be like, oh, I really want to work with Jennifer. They have to like go in, prove that they care about your integrity, your soul growth, like all
So
the
he's
things.
one of those people.
Yeah, he's one of your
That
loved
means
ones.
because we never had like a really deep relationship. I just felt the connection with us, but we never had deep conversation. He was very private. Never
Okay.
been married, no kids,
Ooh,
married to his
interesting.
piano.
Okay.
Very private.
Well, and that's so funny too because I had this really beautiful session years ago and it really stuck with me where somebody had a NICU nurse that came through and they were like, how would you know is in the NICU? I'm like, that's one of your loved ones. So they don't even remember her. They don't know her. They went back and like asked their mom and
But
they're
that was
like,
just
I
the
remember
connection.
that, but
Wow.
sometimes there's just more to that. And
Yes.
so it's not always who you think it might be.
Because I've definitely felt it. We have a connection,
Oh, I
but we
love
never
that.
like took it. We never
Okay.
hung out and like.
Okay, I love that.
Yeah, he's amazing.
But they're all there to help us grow, right? And they're there to help us with different things. And
Yeah.
so,
Can you give us like a closing sort of wrapping up
Sure.
what you're saying?
Yeah,
Like, for people
absolutely.
watching, if there's a little confusion.
Okay, yeah, without a doubt. So everybody has a different number of teachers. I've worked with some people who literally have one or two teachers they're working with because we have multiple lessons that we're learning,
Right.
and a lot of times our lessons can take multiple lifetimes. Like it'll carry over. You tend to accomplish your lessons pretty quickly.
I'm a fast flyer. That's
But
what
you
my teacher calls
also
me.
love your teachers, and so you go back to your teachers for other things.
Too much, you mean?
No.
Oh, I
It
love
can't be
having a
too much.
teacher.
But-
I'm an advocate of having teachers.
Well, and
Sometimes
you-
a teacher is a podcast.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yes, without a
Yeah.
doubt. But I mean, literally, you had 8 different teachers show up today, and I was like,
Oh, no. And I love
She's doing
even
a
in,
lot of
in
work.
this realm, I'm a learner.
yes, without a
Yes.
doubt. And my, just for everybody out there and for you, my example, that would be like, we want to make the most of this lifetime. So we sign up for all the lessons,
Yeah, I
right?
love
Like we
it.
got to do all the things.
I don't have a college degree, but I have like a universal
That's
degree. I'm
right.
like definitely a
Absolutely.
graduate student.
Like, yes, without a doubt. But it's awesome kind of seeing them all step forward, because I know when we came in, they were almost like giving you like love, like reverence. And so I was like, oh, you've worked with some of these teachers before. I think you tend to accomplish yours. And then you, instead of like, a lot of people have their teachers kind of step back and like just try to finish the rest of them. You're like, no, fill that hole. Like have somebody else come.
I love it.
Keep working.
More.
I think that your sweet mentor you mentioned earlier, and again, I only can see the things that are connected to you, but I have a feeling that Dana might be the same way. Is that what you said her name
Yeah,
was?
Dana, yeah.
Like I think she definitely is. She wants to make the most of her time here. And
Yes.
she's like doing as much as she
God,
possibly
yes,
can. You
yes.
know, so I'm sure she resonates with that
Oh
with you
yes,
as well.
100%.
But the point of it is really just to start to give you like a glimpse into who you are, why you travel with people, why they're there, what your gifts might be, what
Love
your
it.
lessons might be. You and your mom actually have some big things, and I'll tell you just to end on one note that when your mom does transition, you're going to help her soul do that too.
I don't feel connected to her at all right now. Yeah, I never have.
I think that there's
But
some
I
big
do,
stuff
yeah.
with that Alzheimer thing too coming in. Like there's
It's changing her for the better. I know that sounds bad. She's
No, it
like
actually
softer.
doesn't.
She's softer.
And I think softer is a beautiful way to say it. I mean, all I saw was just a lot of fear and a lot of things that felt very heavy in terms of actually really what I saw was how beautiful your soul was, like how much your soul has overcome, how much your soul pushed forward. even-
Because of where I came from in that way. Yes, thank you. Thank you.
So I love
Well,
that.
so how can people find you? Well, I cry. You
Well, here,
tell
let
you
me
tell the
close
world how
really
people can
quickly so
find
don't
you.
hang out in your records. Can I do that?
Oh
Is that
yes,
okay?
close. We have like less than a minute.
Oh, okay. Well, actually, then let me tell them, and we can do that afterwards. So it is Anna at Alara is my website. You can also go to Alara International, AHLARA. Alara is just a beautiful space for me. So hopefully others will find it, to be the same for them as well.
Yes. If you don't live in North Carolina, come to North Carolina, or next time you're in the Charlotte, Lake Norman area, check out Anna Flowers. Do you have social media?
Absolutely. And I definitely do a lot of stuff too in terms of Zoom. So
I've
actually
same. I love the virtual sessions.
read for somebody in every continent now. It's kind of weird.
Yeah. Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, it's really exciting. That
Oh
just
my gosh.
happened
I've only done
recently.
Italy in America.
That's awesome.
Oh my gosh. So everybody out there, check out Anna Flowers.
Okay. Thank you so
Get
much.
your Akashic Records read, learn about yourself, and open up your gifts and close the records, Anna.
Thank you.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much for watching.
Thank you so much for having
Till
me.
next time. Thank you. This is amazing.
Absolutely.
Yeah, 316. Got game and pulled out his own Atari. I said sorry, I'ma have to pass like Nash to Amari. Tiger up early on a Sunday, sinking birdies while the pigskin spinning through the air, tight and birdie. It's a TD, it's a TKO, a home run, it's a hat trick. Ain't no way to be an all-star without practice. So if you down to sacrifice your life for a draft pick, it's a pretty sweet position you can live in if you have some things in the air. If you got game, wave 'em like you just don't care. If you got game, playing like you